Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Stack Sprint, where we take complicated technologies of UI UX design and break them down into the world's easiest crash courses. This is episode 3 and we're tackling FigJam today. FigJam is a relatively new addition into Figma and helps with brainstorming, mind mapping, flowcharting and coming up with new ideas, planning and structuring apps and websites, wireframing, and just is such a great help whether you're structuring databases or user interfaces. So let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the FigJam crash course. Let's get started. To get started, just open up Figma and click on a new FigJam board. You can also click on plus and then choose to create a new FigJam board. The FigJam UI is extremely simple to use. Let's just get started with the easiest things first. So the first thing that I need you to know about is the timer, music and voting button. This is present right here, and this is the first button you'll click on if you are a productivity freak like me and love music and timers and all of the things productivity. The best thing about FigJam is that it has all of these productivity tools built in. You can firstly decide the amount of volume you want all of these things to play at and have one of these timers run as well. You can add a minute, or you can use your mouse and keyboard to decide on the amount of time you want to dedicate to a specific task, and then you can click on start timer and that's going to start a real timer for you. And this is going to be extremely useful when you're having a set and tight deadline for a brainstorming session. You can also pause the timer or end it completely. You can also choose which music you'd like to play and click on the start button to give these musics a try. I love these for my own personal productivity and I highly recommend that you do. You can also add a new vote button, which is for voting amongst a whole bunch of audiences. So if you have a bunch of designers on the same call, it's really useful to get their vote on which design, which idea we're going forward with, and this is the feature for that purpose. Let's get into that in a little while, because right now we're not entirely aware of what we're voting for. So with that said, it has a couple of really cool features that I want to get you started with. The first is this one, which is the generate feature, which is from the AI beta. You can ask the AI built into Figma to create something for you. For example, a mind map for the different ways you'd build out website that shows and illustrates the different plant varieties available and lets users sort and search to find their perfect plant for their home gardens. Now I know this is a really complicated prompt and we've sort of structured it to be complicated so that you are able to see what the magic of FigJam AI beta can do. So this is a complicated problem from a UX design perspective, and we're trying to design a mind map to find the different ways you could build a website that shows the different plant varieties and lets the users sort and find the perfect plant for their home gardens. And so this is a complicated prompt, and I would want to put Figma AI beta to the test, and let's now see what possibilities it brings forth to us. This is my favorite part. So check this out, you guys. This is actually pretty nice. Website for plant varieties. You could have an interactive plant database with images, descriptions and care tips. You could also have sorting features to filter sunlight needs, watering frequencies and plant sizes. You could have a search functionality to search by names, types and colors of the plant, and most importantly, user profiles to save their favorite plants and create a garden wish list. You can also receive other plant recommendations from other users as well. I love this concept. I legitimately did not plan it, and yet we have such an effective mind map in front of us. Of course, we can now style this mind map because obviously it is Figma and we are designers. Even the slightest style weirdness creeps me out, so I would expect us all to be really careful about this. The first obviously option you have for fonts is simple. The other option that you have is serify and bookish, which is personally my favorite for some reason. Don't ask me why, it just is. The third one is technical, and this is sort of the mono side of things. And the fourth one is hand-drawn and scribbled. As I said, my favorite one is the bookish one, so I'm just going to stick with that. You can also choose the color that you're going to use. I feel like since this is a plant-based website, you could have green in the center, and that would be really good to illustrate the different concepts we're working with. But when you start using FigJam as a professional, and when you have all of these ideas coming in for all of these different projects, I usually don't select a certain color for the top heading. For the top heading in my personal workflow, I'm using black, and then for all of these different subheadings, we're sort of choosing between different colors, and now we can divide the features of this color and sort of sort through them in terms of how much of it is done, and just create a physical barrier in terms of which type of work is been sorted by which color. So again, that's just my personal brain sorting things out, figuring out how to make them work, and that's just my workflow. But you can choose green if you want to put it at the center, and that's also completely fine. Alright, so this was the magic of everything the AI beta can do. It can create mind maps, flowcharts, and everything else you could think of in FigJam. Now that we have this in the center, alright, let's now talk about the templates button. I feel like you can actually get really useful templates from here. We will get one of these in our actual file, but let's just take a look at all of the different things this has to offer before we do that. So you can have a couple of recommended templates that it is automatically giving you. For example, the team meeting agenda, this one is my favorite. I've used this like 100 times. You also have meetings, diagrams, planning, brainstorming, and all of the different things you could do while designing something, and while wrapping your head around all of the different things that are going to do. It also has really specific templates for designers, developers, user researchers, students, and educators. I feel like we just want to stay in the ballroom of the designer, and we're going to think like that. So the first and my most important template in the whole wide world is the user persona template. I love this template so much because now that we're actually planning an app, it is really important for us to have a user persona without considering this for a moment. So this is the way the app is going to work, but we also want a user of the app, and we want to be really specific in terms of who's using the app. Let's just sort through one of the templates that we've been given and work through them. So when you get started with one of your own templates, you're going to get a little bit of education from FigJam itself on how to use it. So for your ideal customer for this app, you can create a profile, and this is good for identifying needs of our users, which is what we need to do when we're designing this new plant app, so that they can improve our product and service accordingly. You can use this for 1 to as many people as you want, and there are a couple of other templates which you would find useful just in case. These are some of the useful tools and quick tips, and we're also going to work on this user persona in itself. This is another part of the user persona which we're going to get to in just a moment, but I would want to talk about the third feature on the top bar here, which is the view comments section. And with this section, you can also add a comment. So for example, for the database, we could leave a comment that says we're going to use a relational database, which is a weird database term, but I feel like this is really useful for the whole team. So when we're talking about a database, this one needs to be a relational database, and anyone can now see that I've left a comment about a relational database for the plant database. And so this is just extremely useful to get all of your comments and stuff in one place. You can also sort and filter through the comments or search through different comments when you have more than one. Let's just close this out now. You can share your entire FigJam file if you want to, but I feel like we don't need to right now, so we're just going to close it off. And before we get into the user persona, which is the fun activity for today, I want to talk about how we work with FigJam, because that is the most important question now. So to work with FigJam, move around in it, and just use different features, I feel like we need to talk about the bottom bar for a bit. The bottom bar can be used as follows. So at the very first point, you have two options. You can use the select tool to select something specific and to change it. So for example, you can change the font size for these guys. I would want to keep this one huge. You can also strike through this text, link it to something, for example google.com/plants, in case there is a link that is very useful to this current topic. You can also have these links for these guys in case you find something that's really useful for the sorting features, for example an article or something like that. You can also, let's get rid of this link now. You can also add a bulleted list if you need to. So for example, you can have more than one of these bullets, but I don't feel like that's necessary for now. You can also align this text in the center, and this would actually be useful if we had a lot of text that would have more than one line. You can also choose any other sort of alignment that you want, and with the FigJam AI feature, you can actually generate more ideas for website plant varieties. And let's just see what the FigJam feature gives us now. So you can have a virtual plant nursery with online purchasing options, plant care guides and tips, community forums for plant enthusiasts, and seasonal plant recommendations with an augmented reality for virtual plant placement. Again, these are new ideas which I feel like are super duper amazing and super duper useful. I do want to have a couple of ideas and have them be really dedicated, and so we want to start dedicated branches for each. And when you have dedicated branches for each new idea that you say yes to, you're going to change the color for that. And that this is just a productivity tip. And in case you have an idea that you don't really like or it isn't feasible in the current run, you can just delete it by pressing on backspace or delete. And with that, we have our actual mind map ready with us. And you can just change the amount of font size that you're working with in case you want this to be more important than the others or less important. I feel like you can do that. You can also manually add the font size. So for example, you can do 84, and that's going to sort of manually change the font size that you're working with. With those basics out of the way for mind maps, now I want to talk about everything that's present in the bottom bar. At the bottom bar, you also have the hand tool. This is super useful when you're moving around a huge file and you sort of want to take a look at this sentence right here, and then you want to go and check something out over here. So this is really useful when you're moving the whole canvas around. This next tool is the marker tool. This is my favorite because with this marker tool, you can sort of zoom in and point out this is the personality of the user, this is what we want to change, this is something that we don't like, this is something that we do like, and this is very, very free and very, very scribbly, and I love this, especially as a creative mind. You also have the highlighter, and I feel like this is really important because you can underline what the interests are, you can underline something that feels really important to you, you can change the color of the things that you're underlining in case you're working with a different color or you just want differences. So and I'm just going to get really practical over here. Let's take for an example this purple option, which is seasonal plant recommendations based on locations. So if this is something that I'm working with, and for this idea to be effective, we want to take a look at the pain points. And so for example, if I want to make sense of this point and sort of have it aligned with this point, now having everything highlighted or have the text color be purple is extremely useful. So I feel like that's where the highlighter gives you major advantages when it comes to switching colors. And now you also have the washi tape. I love this so much because you can just use the washi tape to let things look cute, or you can use it as a major highlight to sort of underline something that's really, really important to you. And I feel like this just does the job of something that your usual highlighter wouldn't do. You can also import an extra image, an extra SVG or something like that, and have the tape be around it. And I feel like this is also a really, really fun tool to play around with. So if you just switch around the different patterns of the washi tape, this is by far the best FigJam feature that has ever existed, and it is seriously so fun. So I just love this so much, you guys. This is genuinely amazing, and once you start using it, it actually gets quite addictive. You can also choose the format of washi tape that you want to. For example, I've imported my personal image here, and I can use that to sort of repeat it and have it as my washi tape repetition. So I've chosen an image now and I'm using it for the washi tape. And now if you zoom in, check this out, puppy washi tape. How adorable is that? I love it. With that said, let's now talk about the eraser tool. So let's just get rid of the stuff that we don't need. And once that is done, you can also start working with sticky notes. Again, this is so important when you're working with virtual plant nursery online purchasing, and now you're using a green sticky note to highlight the fact that your new idea is related to this specific idea. So even if you're working with a bunch of these and this sort of gets dislocated to another portion of the screen, if this goes left or to the right, you are still able to highlight the fact that this idea is somehow related to the green one. And if this idea is not related to the green one and this is related to the red sort of feature, you can also use another sticky note, have it be red, add it right here, and both of these sort of could be wherever they want to be in the screen, and we'd still know they're related to the sorting features. My favorite feature of all is that you can use any of these sticky notes and have them be a part of the sorting features mind map. This is seriously so useful, you guys. And you can add new shapes if you want to. This is seriously the most useful shapes that I've ever seen. And this starts off from the basic shapes. For example, a rectangle where you can add text, obviously. You can also have your basic lines and arrows and connectors and stuff like that, or have there be an arrow or a star or any other shape of that sort. But these flowcharts are really where it gets extremely useful in a real sense. So for example, when you're structuring a bunch of folders, having the folder flowchart, having the ability to add some text here to say this is going to be folder 1 and sort of have the file structure and everything be really clear after that, helps you so much when it comes to practical planning. So I can have a file that's sort of linked to this, and I can have this be linked to my folder, and this just helps you structure your files and folders so well. You can also have some advanced options like activities, and this is how it would be useful. So for example, if you have a sorting feature, this basically is an activity, and you would want to have something highlighting that the sorting feature is an activity that the people are going to do. Similarly, search functionality is another activity that you would want people to work with. So this is really clear highlighting. This next one is a database. So the interactive plant database is going to be a database, and we're clearly highlighting that, and now we can visually see that there's a difference. So I'm going to make this guy blue, and I'm going to make the sorting features red, and I'm going to make the search functionality the teal that I like. So basically, search functionality is an activity, this is a database, this is an activity again. So the programming or the code team can work on this feature and this feature because these are activities to be implemented on the front end, and the backend team or the database team can now take this end of the whole brainstorming flowchart, because now we have this be a database. And all of these are other things that you can also add. This is a payment option. This has been seriously super duper useful to me, because for example, you're charging something for this, and in order for the user to work with this feature, you want to add a payment gateway because this is a premium feature. Now you're able to clearly highlight where a payment gateway needs to work and what parts of the app the payment gateway needs to log, if that makes sense. You also have a bunch of these other advanced functionalities which I would love to get into the details of, but that would just make this video really long. I encourage you to explore all of these on your own. All of these are super duper fun and just amazing to look at and try to figure out how they work on a real professional level. And this is the dedicated places for shapes, and it's just absolutely perfect when you're just getting started. You have advanced shapes here as well, and they're also available here if you need them any time. Along with the shapes, we also have the text option. So for example, if I want to add some random idea or some particular piece of text that I just want to have out there without a lot of more context, I can just add that as a plain idea. And this is really amazing if you're sort of brainstorming and you have an idea in your head and you want it to be out here on the screen, and then you can move this around and then have this be attached to a certain area and have this be linked to something in the user persona, but it doesn't need to. So this is a really free thing, and you can sort of work with it and just have this fit the structure wherever you want it to. And so just being the ability to put it as a free idea or be able to link it to a certain sticky note or something like that. So for example, in this sticky note, you could expand this idea in greater depth, is just really useful. The next thing we have is a section. You can create dedicated sections for certain things. So for example, this white section is holding my folder structure, and I can also change the border here so to sort of highlight the kind of section that it is, change the visibility of the section so I can close off certain sections when I need to, lock this section, obviously unlock it, and also rename the section to new section or anything else that you need to, and we can show you the section as well. You can use this button to fit the section to the entirety of the shape that it's at. The next option we have is the table option. This is really useful, for example, in locations such as these where you have an interactive plant database and you want to structure this relational database into the way it's going to work. So the basic context here is relational databases are like tables but in the form of databases. So for example, if for this interactive database I want to have certain qualities like the plant ID, this is really important to actually be able to sort and query through which plant specifically this is, the plant name. You can also add the plant scientific name, other common names, image link. This is the physical process of structuring a real database, and this is a little bit on the development database design side of things, but I want to give you all of the context in the real world industry. You can also have stuff like average lifespan, seasonal, yes or no, and you can decide whether this area is going to be seasonal. If it is, you can sort of have this be a certain color. For example, pink dedicates if this is seasonal, or if it's around the season, this is going to be a yes or no field. You also have the age, this is just really important and basic stuff. And now that I have added all of the different fields that I need to, I can also get rid of extra sections. So I'm just pressing shift and selecting more than one column at a time, and you can sort of delete them to get rid of the certain data that's over here. Or now that you've figured out how to select a row, we're going to select an entire area and just get rid of it entirely. So we're just going to select a specific cell, then press shift and select the last cell. So from the first cell to last cell, everything is selected, and we're going to press delete and get rid of that. And with that, we have our nice concise table ready with us. You can fill it up with a couple of entries if you want to delete the extra entries if you don't want them to be here. So for example, if I want to delete this to this, I'm just going to get rid of that, and this is going to give me a rough structure of my actual database. I can also adjust specific line heights if I need to, or specific row heights if I need to. Sometimes scientific names are longer, and this is a really useful feature. So with this specific element, I have already brainstormed what my database is going to look like. This is super duper useful, you guys. The next option we have is the stamp option. So for example, if I show this structure of my database to a client or to some guy who is operating the database, now we can actually point out the fact that this seasonal option is a yes or no feature, and if the database person likes it as a nice feature, they can heart it. And now we know that this is actually a liked feature. If more than one person likes this, they're going to give it multiple hearts, and that's also really, really helpful. You can choose which stamp you want to use. So if someone disagrees, they can also use the dislike feature. You can have this be +1. So for example, someone approves of it, another person approves of it, another person approves of it. This is really, really easy if you want to take a vote, and we're going to get to the votes as well. You can also stamp this with your name. So for example, I approve of the image link feature. Someone else might have another profile image, and then they can stamp it with their profile image as well. You can have there be a question mark. So for example, if I don't know what this is for, I can add a question mark. Two people can add two stamps if they like. I love this feature, and I'm going to add a star to it. And this just feels so kindergarten-y, where the teachers used to give us stars, but this is just really, really useful in a real specific brainstorming scenario, and it sort of eliminates the need to have paper and pens in a workplace altogether. I am so in love with FigJam, seriously, you guys. You can also choose to like or dislike a specific element. So for example, if I love the way this field is working, I can choose to heart it or leave a star there, or if there's something really, really specific in the middle that I need to highlight. And this is going to be extremely easy to work with when you have a lot of text going on in here. Next, we're going to talk about all of the different assets that FigJam gives us. So for example, you can have stickers, which we've already talked about, but you can have more than one type of sticker. You can also have a WIP cat as a sticker, or a pin. So for example, if I have a really, really important idea and I want to pin it, I'm just going to add a pin over here, and this gives me a really clear visual cue. I can also choose my most commonly used sticker and use it multiple times. I'm going to add this over here, and I'm going to add the start here button here. I can also press shift and scale this guy up and down. This is going to give everyone in the project an idea of where to start from. So we're starting with the database side of things. This gives us the most commonly used features. You can also add a bunch of stars. So for example, I love the way this database is structured, and I'm just going to add a bunch of stars over here. Again, you can press on something and press delete if you don't like what its purpose is right now. You can also get this pin over here and get it be permanent to any sticky note or any idea as a whole. These were the stickers that you can use. You can use so many more stickers, and you can add your own libraries here as well. This is amazing. You can add templates. For example, the team meeting agenda template. This is the user persona template which I want to talk about. This is how to make user personas. You can change the name of the user to, for example, Lisa Chen. Change the age and sort of add an age over here of 24. Occupation is biologist. I know I'm a little on the nose here, but what the hell. Location can be USA, and you can add other bits of info. For example, has an interest in plants, and this is all related to our plant app. And other interests, for example, loves taking pictures with nature. And this is going to be really helpful when we're designing elements like the image library. What specific things we need to focus on, for example, for a average perfect user. This is the archetype user. You can also have there be any other nickname for this person if you want, or just any other really important point here. You can add a bio of what the user is like, have there be a little bit of description, have there be a couple of social or image links for this user, adjust their personality by yourself, so you can change how extroverted or introverted they are, change their analytical and creative sides, change if they're busy or time rich, if they're messy or organized, if they're independent or if they're team players. And these are really nice qualities to work with physically, if they're very active as a user to the app or passive, if working with them is safe or risky. And this is all really person specific, but this helps you design the perfect user persona. You can also add their interests. So for example, their interests can be plants, animals. I'm not really sure what animals would do here, but anyone who has an interest in nature and having all of their interests be on the same page really helps. So for example, if I've already added their interests which are also animals, we could come up with some idea in the future that mixes plants and animals and nature, and then this user would now be a common audience. And I feel like this is where the highlight really helps us. And you can also add specific details. For example, mention a specific user if you want them to take a look at this from the team. So for example, if I can show this option to the team lead, I'm going to add the username of the team lead and say that these people are money rich but time poor. And I feel like this is really specific to people, or you can get rid of who you're showing this to, but this can again be really important in terms of who this person is. You can also add their needs and expectations. So for example, they need a good app to get plant recommendations for their new garden, but as we've already established, they're money rich and time poor, which means they can give us money, they can invest a lot of money into getting their perfect plant. One thing they cannot do, by the way, is spend a lot of time doing their own research. So this is why they're such a good fit, and this is why we can use our marker to sort of highlight the important points. You can also again mention who the user is and stuff like that here. So for example, you can have the UX guy take a look at this, so you can just going to highlight it with @UX guy, whoever the username is. Or you could add need tips when plant is sick. So when you have plant diseases and that just wipes out your entire garden, you want to have that be a clear expectation. So user wants to have tips when the plant is sick, and upload images and recognize what the disease is that the plant has. So you can upload the image of a leaf and have the system recognize what kind of disease it looks like. The motivations are going to be that they are a fan of gardening, so they are a green thumb, which is a fancy way of saying fan of gardening. Or they can have environmental impact as a motivation, or, and this is the most common one, they can have the need to want their garden to look perfect for aesthetic reasons. So if they want their home to look perfect, they would want to have good plants. And if someone is really interested in the aesthetic part of things, have their home look nice, have their garden look nice, this is the part where they're going to invest a lot of money, so they're actually able to pay us. We know that these people are money rich and they're willing to pay, and when they want this for aesthetic reasons, now they're more likely to pay for our services. And we can highlight this using our highlighter or use our tape. This is my personal puppy tape, by the way. I love this so much to highlight what we're working with. Again, I'm just going to get rid of this now because my puppy tape is far more important than anything else. But that's just me. Their pain points and frustrations are complicated internet research. And you can also show this to a specific user. So for example, you can show it to the UX guy again. Complicated app interfaces in the market. So for example, I'm just going to get rid of this over here, and I'm going to add the fact that they want to get rid of the complicated interfaces in the market. That's a pain point for them. I'm just going to enter the new line and tag the UX guy and sort of ask them research and find ways to build upon the already present bad UI UX experience. Research and find ways to build upon the already present UX poor apps. And this is just really specific guidance on who needs to do what. You can also add other pain points and frustrations. For example, long load times for images of sick plants. And I feel like this is really specific, and we can even change the color of this sticky note to green and have this again go here and link to this other green sticky note. So for example, we were talking about the same chain of thought. This is when a plant is sick, and we're going to link this to this guy, which is another problem. So this is now the chain which talks about sick plants. You can also bring this chain down, be able to change the color of the chain. We're going to make this light green, change its thickness, and add a text here which is all talking about sick plants. So this is every single thing that you need to think about as a person on the team who is working with the sick plant aspect of things. So they need to figure out that these are the expectations or needs in terms of sick plants. For the person who's designing the sick plants feature, this is a need and expectation. Meanwhile, this is a pain point. Both of these are very relevant pieces of information and they're just tying together the whole page. This is influences. So influences is Instagram worthy garden, which is actually a very common expectation in urban areas. Planting plants that are healthy for their small home. They don't want some plant which, for example, is like hemlock, which releases a lot of poison. Non-toxic for kids, because this is really important. If you have a little child in your house running around who grabs a plant and eats the leaf, then you don't want to rush them to the hospital just because they did something childish like that. You can also have this be, you can also have an influence, you can also have an extra influence, or if you don't have any other influences, you can delete this as well. So their goals are going to be really, really clear and specific now. Good looking garden, healthy plants, non-toxic house environment. And I'm just going to tie a couple of things together. So for example, non-toxic was an element that we were talking about over here and over here. So these are very related now. We're going to link them together. Let the chain that's sort of linking them be pink. Add a text that talks about toxicity of house plants and how they want to get rid of that as an issue. You can obviously change the font family, change the font size, have this be really, really bold and important if you need to show it. And once this issue has been resolved, you can also strike through it to get rid of the entire issue in itself. And I feel like this is it in terms of this mood board. So this is going to be the details of the use. And with that, we have created our very, very first user persona using FigJam. We've also figured out the internal workings of an entire actual app. And this is mind blowing because you're using this app for the first time and you've already figured out how you'd plan and structure a real world app. If you want to have further explorations in this world, you can search for widgets, plugins, and all of the other really, really cool features that I want to talk about in another video. The last thing I want to cover is coming back to the votes section, because I promised you I'd take care of this in this video. Let's talk about the vote section. So now that we have basically planned and structured this entire app, someone on the team might say we want to skip the whole aspect of toxicity of houseplants, maybe because it's beyond the scope and budget of what our team can do right now. And so then you can take a vote on whether you want to keep or get rid of this feature. You can stamp your first 3 favorites or stamp just one of your favorite ideas. So for example, if I have 2 competing issues, I want to just give you a real insight into what that's going to look like. So for example, if you have a limited budget and 2 competing issues, some people might want to work on the toxicity of houseplants, target that for their app. Some people might work on the sick plants aspect and want to work on that. And these are the decision makers for this team, mind you. So you can just take a vote very, really quickly, bring this down to 1. So you can choose either this or this. And this is really, really easy to schedule on a real call, and you can just start your vote. You can choose whether you heart this or this, and there is only one specific vote left. You can choose your sticker. Maybe you want to question something, maybe you want to like something. I personally want to like this, so I'm just going to say I want to talk about the sick plants aspect better. I'm just going to use my vote. I want to use my vote to tackle the whole sick plants issue first, and so this is going to get my vote as opposed to the toxicity issue, because no matter who you are, where you are, sick plants are always going to be a problem for a garden owner. Toxicity can be a thing which only specific people want to work around. So for example, only pet owners and child owners would want to worry about toxicity, and this would be a really niche down issue to work with. But whether you want your plants to be non-toxic or don't care about it, in either case, plants are always going to be sick. So from a monetary point of view, this is a bigger issue to tackle, and this would make more sense in terms of working with it. So you're going to let your vote run. After everyone has voted, you're going to end the vote, and by the end of it, you'll know which the users prefer, whether the users prefer the sick plants route or whether they prefer the toxicity route. And once you know that the people don't prefer this, now you can strike through this entire thing, just close the whole issue off, and now you have this as an archived idea as opposed to one you're working with. And now you can actively sticker this out and have this be a work in progress. And now this is the winner, and we're sort of working with this as opposed to that. And so this is just really clear structuring, deciding in real time what features to keep and let go, just getting really comfortable with the actual planning and intricacies of an app. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have successfully planned and designed and worked on all of the little intricacies, including planning an entire relational database, a flowchart for the structure, new ideas, and a user persona of an entire real world app. And also, as an extra bonus, I showed you how to add a puppy tape, which is my favorite in the whole world. If you don't want this weird grid tape to be here, you can add puppy tape. And before we go away, you can also replace the image of the user persona to add the image of the actual user who is going to use this image. And you can also crop this image and sort of bring this to the center. Use the rotate button to rotate this image, scale this image up and down, choose the way you're going to structure this image, add some alt text or description if you need to as additional textual data. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have completed the entire FigJam crash course. Now you know how to use FigJam, how to create your own flowcharts, mind maps, brainstorm things, plan entire apps, create user personas, and most importantly, use puppy tape. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out the entire tech stack sprint where we tackle complicated technologies, break them down into simple terms for UI UX designers. This has been the world's easiest FigJam crash course. I will see you in the next one.